The historical context behind the Battle of Thermopylae encompasses the complex geopolitical landscape of 480 BCE, when the Persian Empire under Xerxes I launched a massive invasion of Greece, fundamentally altering the course of Western civilization. This context is crucial because it reveals that the famous last stand of the 300 Spartans wasn't an isolated act of heroism, but rather a calculated strategic decision within a larger coordinated Greek defense effort. The significance of understanding this broader context lies in how it reshapes our perception of what actually happened at Thermopylae. Rather than viewing it as a hopeless suicide mission, the historical backdrop reveals it as part of a sophisticated defensive strategy designed to buy time for Greek naval forces at Artemisium and allow other city-states to prepare their defenses. The Spartans knew they were likely going to die, but their sacrifice served a specific military purpose within the larger war effort. Two key examples illustrate this strategic importance. First, the simultaneous naval battle at Artemisium demonstrates how Leonidas's forces were coordinating with the Greek fleet to create a two-pronged defensive strategy, with both land and sea components working together to slow the Persian advance. Second, the political maneuvering that led to Sparta's participation reveals how various Greek city-states, despite their frequent conflicts, recognized the existential threat posed by Persian expansion and temporarily united under Spartan military leadership. Ancient historians like Herodotus support this interpretation, emphasizing how the battle fit into Xerxes' broader campaign to subjugate all of Greece and expand Persian dominance into Europe. However, some modern scholars challenge traditional accounts, arguing that certain details have been romanticized over time, particularly regarding the exact numbers involved and the level of Greek unity. This historical context directly influences every other aspect of the Thermopylae story. It explains why the Spartans chose to make their stand at this particular mountain pass, why they felt compelled to fight despite knowing the outcome, and how their sacrifice ultimately contributed to eventual Greek victory. Understanding these broader circumstances transforms the narrative from a simple tale of martial valor into a complex story of international warfare, political strategy, and the clash between two fundamentally different civilizations. The context reveals that the 300 Spartans were not just warriors, but participants in one of history's most consequential geopolitical struggles. I'd be happy to provide a detailed explanation for your outline heading, but I noticed that you mentioned the following heading without actually including the specific heading you'd like me to address. Could you please share the particular heading from your outline about the shocking truth about what really happened to the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae that you'd like me to analyze? Once you provide that specific heading, I'll be able to give you a comprehensive 350 to 400 word explanation that covers all the elements you've requested. The definition, significance, examples, supporting opinions, controversies, and connections to the broader topic. This will ensure I'm addressing exactly the aspect of the Thermopylae story that you want to focus on in your script. Separating myth from reality when examining the Battle of Thermopylae requires careful analysis of ancient sources, understanding their biases, and recognizing how political agendas shaped historical narratives. This process involves distinguishing between documented facts and embellished stories that served propaganda purposes in ancient Greece and continue to influence modern perceptions of the 300 Spartans. The significance of this analytical approach cannot be overstated when examining Thermopylae, as much of what people believe about the battle comes from sources written decades or centuries after the events. These accounts were often crafted to inspire Greek unity against Persian threats or to glorify Spartan military culture, making objective historical analysis challenging but essential. Herodotus, writing about 50 years after Thermopylae, provides our primary account but includes numerous supernatural elements and dramatic dialogue that likely never occurred. For example, his famous quote attributed to Spartan warrior Dionychus about fighting in the shade when Persian arrows block out the sun reads more like literary flourish than battlefield documentation. Similarly, the portrayal of Leonidas delivering stirring speeches appears designed to inspire Greek readers rather than record actual events. Archaeological evidence and comparative analysis of Persian military tactics suggest the battle was more strategically complex than the heroic last stand narrative suggests. Modern historians generally support the importance of source criticism when examining ancient battles. Scholar Paul Cartledge argues that while Spartan bravery was genuine, the mythologized version obscures the political calculations behind Leonidas's mission. Military historian Victor Davis Hanson emphasizes that separating fact from fiction reveals more sophisticated Greek defensive strategies than popular accounts suggest. However, some scholars argue that dismissing dramatic elements entirely may undervalue the cultural significance these stories held for ancient Greeks. The controversy lies in determining where historical accuracy ends and useful mythology begins, particularly when sources like Plutarch, writing centuries later, added layers of heroic embellishment that became accepted as fact. This critical analysis connects directly to understanding the real military significance of Thermopylae, the actual political situation between Greek city-states and Persia, and how the battle's memory was weaponized for later political purposes. By separating documented facts from inspiring fiction, we discover that the true story of the 300 Spartans reveals more about ancient Greek society, military tactics, and propaganda methods than the mythologized version ever could. I noticed that you've mentioned there's a specific heading from an outline about the shocking truth about what really happened to the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae that you'd like me to analyze, but I don't see the actual heading included in your message. Could you please provide the specific heading you'd like me to elaborate on? Once you share that heading, I'll be happy to give you a detailed 350 to 400 word explanation that covers a clear definition of the concept, its significance to the Battle of Thermopylae, specific historical examples, relevant scholarly opinions, controversies or alternative viewpoints, connections to the broader topic. This will help ensure I'm addressing exactly the aspect of the Thermopylae story you're most interested in exploring. Whether it's about the actual numbers involved, the political motivations, the military tactics, the aftermath, or any other specific element of this famous historical event.